Good afternoon. I'm here with Austin Ryan, Director of Rugby and Head Coach of Men's Rugby at Fairfield University in Fairfield, Connecticut. Welcome, Coach Ryan. Can you tell us a little bit about your background and your current role?
Well, thanks, Melanie, for having me. So this is my third year full time as director of rugby and head coach for the men's team. Prior to this, I was head coach in a part time stipend capacity. When I was part time, I was a high school English teacher and spent my life working in education, primarily in the secondary sector, teaching high school English. I was an advancement officer, and then I was a director of development for the diocese in Bridgeport for a year before getting back into teaching, and then grew up locally. Went to Fairfield Prep, which is on Fairfield U's campus, which is where I found rugby, and went to Marquette University in Wisconsin, in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Played rugby there. First job was down in Dallas, Texas, teaching high school English and coaching coaching on the staff on the rugby staff down there, and then moved back to Connecticut in 2014 and coached the women's team at Fairfield for a year before I had to step away due to my commitments as an advancement officer. And when I left the advancement world, got back into teaching, I got back into coaching in 2019 and coached the men's team. And then the Alumni Booster Club, the Friends of Fairfield Rugby, initiated the pursuit of a full time director of rugby and head coach. And here I am again, like as I said, my third full year.
What do you mean by advancement officer? I'm not familiar with that term.
Development officer, so someone who goes out and engages donor prospects for philanthropic contributions,
Great.
so donations. Used to ask people for money.
Excellent. Could you tell us a little bit about the rugby program, when it started, what division you play in?
Uh, so Fairfield University Rugby was established in 1963. It's the oldest club sport on campus. And in 1994, the women's rugby club was established. And what what's very exciting for us is that in a couple of years, we're going to be celebrating 100 years of rugby at Fairfield University. We're going to add the number of years the men's team's been around and the number of years the women's team's around have been around, and we're going to have a big celebration. So um, the men's rugby team has been, as I said, extremely popular really since its inception. Fairfield University Rugby has been known for fielding multiple sides. At one point, I think there was an E or an F side, according to some of the guys who were around in the 60s, 70s, or 80s. We do have a couple his, uh, reputable alumni. Paul Sheehy from the class of '85 is a capped U.S. sevens and 15s player. Nick Lapanese was an All American and graduated in 2023, and he was drafted eighth overall in the MLR draft by New York Ironworkers before they dissolved. And then Christopher Junta, who just graduated, was a member of the um, NCR All American touring side in France as part of the World Juniors Invitational Tournament that corresponded with the World Cup. And then he was also part of that French U.S. Centennial team that played a three-test series last summer or 2 summers ago. So on the women's side, we've had three All Americans in the last 2 years. Emily Raya graduated in 2023, and then Hannah Brashevsky and Kayla Fox just graduated, and they were named All Americans as well. So our men's team has been in Division One since the fall of 2015. And then the women's team has been in Division Two since fall of 2014. And currently, the men's team is ranked number 17 in the country in Division One 15s. And we've won the bowl in the sevens tournament at CRC's. The only loss was a heartbreaking overtime sudden death loss to Indiana, which, as everybody knows, is a highly reputed sevens program. And then our women's team finished fifth in the country in Division Two. They do play Vassar College, which is the reigning Division Two champions, and then they also play Coast Guard, which won the sevens D2 championship. So to kind of personify it, Fairfield Rugby, we compete against the best. With the men in our division is Brown University, which has won the national championship 2 out of the last 3 years. And on the women's side, they play Vassar College in their division that has won. They've been to the finals 2 years in a row, and they won it last year. And we are a what's called a tier one club sport. So what's great is that with with the growing landscape of varsity athletics in the United States, as far as NIL and transfer portal, that the culture of recruiting high school players to come and play college athletics, it's a little different. Whereas a lot of schools are engaging current college students to transfer. So club sports really does offer that high school varsity level of athletic competition that some may consider it a tier below varsity athletics. I mean, at the end of the day, right, it all comes down to priority and funding. That being said, we conduct ourselves essentially as a varsity program with our practice commitments, our strength and conditioning commitments, and our attention to detail and film and combat and contact conditioning, and nutrition and sports performance and hydration and things like that. So all in all, we're the most popular club sport on campus, and we're the marquee feature of our annual alumni and family weekend in the fall. Since we don't have an American football team, you're going to see over 1,000 people packing the hill and the stone wall along North Benson Road, and you'll see Lieutenant Hans Grauert Memorial Field on North Benson Road filled to the brim with tailgaters and rugby and bagpipers, and it's just an incredible celebration of one of the staples of this university, which is the rugby program.
That sounds great. Now I want to go to it. Could you tell me a little bit about your weekly schedule? You alluded to the S&C and the training and the games and that sort of thing. Could you tell us what it would look like on an average week?
Yep. For the men's side, we have 80. We currently have 84 players on our roster. That includes 23 incoming first years, and then the remainder, the rest are returning upperclassmen, which range from sophomores to graduate students. So we do separate them into three teams: A side, B side, C side. Our A and B side train together, so that's our 40 to 44 top players. And their commitment would be practice on Monday, half practice, half lift on Tuesday, no field practice unless you want to get individuals or positional skills on your own, and then team lift on Wednesday, dress rehearsal on Thursday, Friday a team primer in the weight room, and then team prayer service in the chapel and team dinner in the dining hall. And then Saturday is match day and Sunday is recover. And then following Monday during the school day, we offer film sessions based on large groups of people's schedules.
Great.
And then for the women's program, they practice Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And then they have Mondays and Thursdays in the weight room. And then their games are on Sundays.
Super. So it's a lot of rugby.
Oh, it's all rugby all the time.
That's the way I like it. That's great. What do you think makes your team special? You talked about there not being a football team, and so a lot of that excitement in the larger school comes from that. But for the team itself, what do you think defines it? What makes it special?
The first graduating class that I worked with all 4 years was in the fall of 2019, and then they graduated in 2023. So that was actually Nick Lapanise's class, whom I mentioned earlier. and we were at a sevens tournament in Colgate, which is in Hamilton, New York. And Nick's mom, Jen, was actually the team mom back then. And we were waiting in between games and just kind of talking about Nick's experience and such. And she flat out said that after his fall semester, his freshman year, he said, "Mom, these guys are going to be groomsmen in my wedding, and these guys are going to be my best friends for life." And that very much translates to the women's side of it because um, with this past group that went to San Diego, it was initiated and organized by um, five members of the junior class. So to answer your question directly, it is the camaraderie and the friendships and the bonds and the relationships that our student athletes form with each other, and that they cultivate through their studies and through their efforts on the rugby field.
That's great. When you are recruiting, I talk to a lot of coaches and they say I talk to 200 or 300 kids for each recruiting cycle. And I would imagine for you, it would be even more with having both the men's and women's program under your umbrella. What do you look for in a top recruit? What catches your eye and what keeps your attention?
At the end of the day, it matters. The most important thing that matters is, does the prospect fit the missions, the values, and the vibe of the institution? Um, this might sound paradoxical, but if a prospect is an incredible rugby player, and that's great, but if they don't fit the vibe of the institution, or the school doesn't offer the academic track that the student wants to pursue, or our level of team doesn't meet their expectations, then it's not going to work. So, and that's where we could offer them whatever as a recruiting package, but at the end of the day, if they get here and it just doesn't work, then both parties are going to be unhappy, right? So, answer your question, it's all about how well prospect fits the institution. And the way we have that conversation is, I actually stole this from a colleague, Ed Tuberty, who is the head coach of that NCR Internet All American team. The way we encourage prospects to um, discern their college choice, it's in this order: um, academics, student life, professional networking, and then rugby. And first thing I always say is, well, why is rugby last? Well, for those few of us that are privileged to make rugby a career, or playing rugby a career, I should say, there is a time limit on that, right? Because at some point, you're just not going to be able to play rugby at the top level. And at some point, you're going to need to fall back on a career. And you're coming to college to pursue a degree and pursue a profession. So, um, basically, how the student and the parent reacts to that kind of metric tells us right away where their values are and where their head's at. And that helps us determine whether or not this is a prospect we want to pursue.
So along those lines, let's say it is somebody you want to pursue. How does financial aid or merit scholarships, how do they work at Fairfield?
The advantage of our department, and particularly the relationship that we have cultivated within other university departments throughout the years, is we work directly and cooperatively with the admissions office. So our kind of like recruit cycle, it would be discovery, an introductory Zoom call with a parent. We encourage them to come do an official visit through the admissions department. And on that same day, we give them the rugby tour. So we show them the field, the varsity weight room that we're the only club sport that has access to. We'll show them some upperclassmen housing, like a townhouse or a beach house. And then we'll have a meal with them and kind of debrief. And then we'll encourage them to do follow up with an interview with an admissions counselor, whether it's in person or digital. And then the final part of it is an overnight visit where we take that player and we put them with a current member of the team, and they come up to see a game, and then after the game they spend the night with that player. And while all that's happening, the prospect sends me their transcript and resume, and we do a pre-read with the admissions department that projects their application relative to the overall applicant pool. And the admissions department gives feedback, basically on us how to advise the student, what their prospective ranking is, how much they might qualify for in financial aid, and which application cycle is best that they apply.
What do you mean, which application cycle? How does that work?
Regular action, right? Regular action, a regular decision, early action, or early decision.
Sure, got it. All right. So if we go back to rugby for a second, what are your goals for next season for the men and for the women?
Well, both teams, the goal is to make the conference playoffs. For the men, we continue to compete with Brown, Dartmouth, AIC, Siena, um, Harvard, Iona, Fordham, and Syracuse. So each game is extremely competitive, and Brown being the national champion 2 out of the last 3 years, it's that game is definitely a good test, a true test for us. So we're definitely hoping to earn one of those three playoff spots for the men. And then for the women, the goal is to beat Vassar in the regular season and earn the number one seed in the conference playoffs, and then re-qualify for nationals.
So big goals for next season. That'll be exciting.
Yeah, it's we're always kind of that. The way I always kind of refer to us is we're that startup that's just missing one or two big investors before we go public. And then I also say that we're a mom and pop shop, that if you give us dental floss and a Q-tip, we'll build you a shopping mall. So we may not have the resources and the financial resources that the Browns and the Dartmouths have, but we're very proud of the way we um, innovate with what we've got, and the fact that we're respected by those opponents, particularly on both men's and women's sides. It's a testament to the commitment and the effort that our student athletes give, and we're particularly proud of the fact that we'll have this past academic year, we'll have I think it's 12 Scholastic All-Americans on the women's side, and I think it's 8 or 9 men's Scholastic All-Americans. So we work hard and we play harder.
And you're the MacGyvers of the rugby world.
Sure, that's a good one. I'm going to take that one.
If we talk a bit about Fairfield University, what do you think the best things are, or what's notable about Fairfield?
So Fairfield's it's a Catholic Jesuit institution. For those, for people who are unfamiliar with religious affinity, the Jesuits are certainly the more, for lack of a better term, liberal of religious organizations. Their entire ethos is on education, and particularly through Saint Ignatius, his teachings are all about self reflection, and how a person is called to fulfill his or their vocation, in accordance with what God calls them to do. Um, so it's not like you're coming here and you're being forced to go to mass, or you know that kind of thing. But it is what you get, what we call cura personalis. It's called care for the whole person. So you are getting what people would know as a Renaissance education. You're getting good liberal arts, in addition to your major whether it be business, whether it be some sort of science, or we have a lot of nursing students, particularly on the women's team, or if it's some sort of engineering effort or a technology effort as well. And we're a suburban beach town, so we're in a nice little niche in Fairfield, Connecticut, which geographically speaking is almost perfectly situated right between New York City and Boston. So you're a Metro North train ride from New York City, you're an Amtrak train ride from Boston, you're a short flight to DC, and you're in the epicenter of the financial world, whether it be Wall Street in New York City or wealth management and asset management in Fairfield County or Westchester County. Um, you know, I'm sure people know that Connecticut has the best pizza in the country. So college kids love to eat, so they're never really going to go hungry. And what's really cool about senior year at Fairfield is the majority of students live on the beach on Long Island Sound. Now, Long Island Sound is not Mission Beach or Pacific Beach in San Diego, but it's still pretty cool your senior year to pack a beach house with your closest friends and wake up to the sunrise of the over the Long Island Sound.
I heard you mention earlier something about you in the upperclassman house or the beach house, and I thought, wow, I don't know that I'd make it to class if I lived in a beach house, but clearly they manage it.
Yeah, they do. It's so funny because at the same time, as appealing as that beach house is, you are guaranteed housing on campus all 4 years. So for me, the upperclassmen living, whether it be the townhouses, the Dolan apartments, or the barnyard, they're these like beautiful condo style houses. And if it were me, I would just Uber to the beach, party with my friends, and then Uber back, so I wouldn't have to clean up in the next day. But that's just me.
There's something about the sun, the sun and the surf, I suppose.
Yeah, yeah, right.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for your time today and for sharing a bit about Fairfield University and your rugby program with us. And I look forward to talking to you soon.
Thank you, Melanie. Really appreciate the opportunity.